it on the different maps. I mean, he's like this sort of brilliant technologist. They have this face detection, and I'm hoping that we can actually get Professor Weckler, to do some different things based on it being an oral history.
I read about that, where actually you can put a source tape, a raw tape, into a machine. Computer interfaces with that with the software. It will read the screen, recognize faces, and audio, the words being spoken, and coordinate all that.
That's right. That's what it does.
That type of.
It's
so
that
right now it's relatively young technology, but basically do a rough.
That's right.
Not only transcript, but organize it.
That's right.
Okay.
But the thing is, with all technology, that's exactly what it's capable of. And he does a lot of work for the Department of Defense with artificial intelligence. And he tells a story, because I went into him and I said, I know, people at the Library of Congress and things, want me to put all this stuff on the internet, but I'm like, no go. And he said, you're right, because we were talking to CBS. And Dan's Rather's on CBS, and he said that they were very concerned because they knew that you could have Dan Rather talking, but it would be someone else's words, but it would sound like his words. So, the technology is really that advanced, and so that's why we're in this sort of digital archive that will be a protected environment, with different universities and colleges.
We're talking about your concerns with the integrity of the archive of the research for future researchers. So there's no chance of anything getting melded together.
Well, it's not that there's no chance. It's at least a controlled environment. A library presents more of a controlled environment, not completely, but some more. The other thing that, so anyway, that's the whole thing. But how, even with technology, like he has a voice recognition software. And because with transcripts, because all the librarians and archivists had told me that there were, off-site sweatshop transcription companies, which I was like interested in. Cheaper, because a transcript, and we get sort of special rates, it's going to cost you $400 for a transcript. And
for
so
the whole interview, or
for a whole interview, and so so that causes some. That's very expensive over time if you're not doing that many transcripts. Plus, you have to proofread the transcripts, and this is what we got into. I just stopped at some point in the process about 2 years ago, because it just looked like a big money pit, no end. Because you can't, like Howard Dotson said, because I was wondering, why am I having so much trouble? He's like, don't worry about getting the transcript correct. Get it so correct, because you can read and have proofreaders, and you're going, and then what is the font size? And we have some of those specs, you'll see that, because we learned in the process, but there's the proofreading, and so voice recognition, none of it's perfect. And this is why we're not going to use their voice recognition, because he said what they had come up with, because voice recognition only recognizes North American male white voices.
Like a lot of other
and so they were saying, it's so funny. So, because Melissa Keaton, who had done a lot of our processing, and she at Carnegie Mellon. So she was saying that they were having problems with even her voice. And so so we're reading the solution they had come up with was that the person would hear headphones, listen to the recording, and they would speak aloud to the voice recognition. I'm like, I'll just go back to the old-fashioned approach, type the transcript.
Sometimes the low tech is the best
Right,
one.
because you have to go in and change that. So we're going to use, the technical part of the processing part. The other thing is that, technology is only as good, a computer is only as good as the information given, garbage in, garbage out. And that's why the indexing is so absolutely critical, and that we have a clue when we start to index, because we'd have to go back and re-index. And if you look, for those of you, because we're going to break you up into two groups, for those of you who will be out here, you should look through UCLA's system, because this indexing would absolutely not work in today's world. But because it's a little too loosey-goosey. You have to, what we are going to be working with are Library of Congress subject headings, along with the African American Library Association developed something called Brown subject headings to help supplement the Library of Congress. So we're sending those to Carnegie Mellon. And then we'll have a geographic thesaurus, but we also will have to supplement, because there's a move right now towards natural words, or syntax. And so, like in the case of the Shoah Foundation, they actually built an index of 40,000 terms. And they had and you have to have a rigorous system in terms of deciding who is going to add and what you're going to add in terms of terminology. So it's a little more complicated, and actually, I want everyone during your time here to participate in proofreading a transcript and going through and seeing the process. I was very, like I said, when I abandoned the project earlier, I was, I had someone look at it, they had sort of separated, you call it subchaptering an interview. And I was thinking, why are they doing it this way? And then, so I did it, and then I stepped away, and I went back about a week later. And I'm like, oh no, I think I should call this, and then I'll call this. And so it's, it really is sort of complicated and somewhat subjective, but you have to almost think, what is that person who's using it? What are they going to think about? And what is so interesting to me, this woman that I met recently who were doing our IMLS training, who had managed CNN's archive, she's one of sort of the leading experts in moving this indexing thing. She said, have you considered the ings? I said, what do you mean, ings? She said, walking, running, laughing, crying. People are not always saying those things, but users of archives are interested in those things. And so in our case, like we have someone interested in doing a DVD series of our material. They want stories of inspiration, stories of, subject matter stories. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Why don't we just take a group of you, divide yourself in half like this, and let's say this half goes in and works with that. I'll pass this around.
The divide is here.
We won't break it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
You guys can get in.
Yeah.
So you can.
Yeah, you're going to be able to see this. So, all right. Well, this is our new digital video library from Carnegie Mellon University.
Start one more time.
All right. This is our new digital video library that Carnegie Mellon has been working on for us, and it's pretty neat actually. Why doesn't somebody just start off? Give me a word. Any word. Akron?
Yes.
Let's see.
As in Ohio? Yes.
Hey,
I really like them.
we did have one hit. We had a hit for Akron. Let's see. This would be. I'm not sure who this is.
There were many stories. My grandfather, my father's
The transcript below.
Yeah.
passed.
Yeah. Files along. And.
But I remember one story. There was they
Also,
were
if you
they were
think
living
to add,
in
it's just
Akron,
the
Ohio
middle.
at the time.
Right there, Akron, Ohio.
And outdoor amusement parks, similar to what used to be here in Chicago.
Now, also, the map has a tendency to follow it around. See,
Similar to that.
it highlights different places he's talking about.
We'll
have access to this.
This will eventually be accessible for scholars in the universities, libraries, things like that. It will not be on the web.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
And I'm not sure why this just froze up like that. That's not good. Now, there's a number of other features that you can also do here, like I can bring back the map. I had blocked off this little area right here of Ohio, and so what we can do then is search for anything that's mentioned in that area that's blocked off.
Oh.
Nice.
With all the different interviews that mentioned.
Yeah, that mention that speak about Ohio.
Oh, man.
So I have 4 pages of them.
That's great
Can
cross.
you see if I recognize it?
Yes.
Sure.
No, it's a little small.
Yeah.
Oh, Julian Bond mentioned Ohio.
Mm-hmm. And we have 4 pages of them though.
I recognize it. Okay.
Then what you'll notice here also then is that some of these, Marion Wright Edelman here has a
Yes.
square around her face. Grab that, bring it up to here, and search that, and it starts looking for every snippet that we have that has her face in it. And unfortunately, it's not always consistent because he always pops up. But sometimes, for the that is oh, I can't remember what his name is.
Is there an affiliation?
That's not John Hope Franklin.
No.
Not,
Is there an affiliation with her?
it shouldn't be because it's a facial recognition. And for the last group, I gave them the same demonstration, and we actually had with the same face, and we actually had more hits for Marion Wright Edelman, and he was there more often. So there's a glitch in the system someplace.
And they don't look alike.
No, not at all. And occasionally you get other problems too, where things that are not faces are recognized as faces. And once again, that's something I need to discuss with them. Then there's other features like
That's neat.
each one of these here. Click on this little film strip underneath, and it breaks down that particular segment even more. So instead of 3-4 minute segment, you can go specifically, if you're looking for a certain word, for instance, you get these little red hash marks, and that will direct you to exactly where within each smaller frame they're speaking about a certain topic, so you can jump straight to that and get the direct quote without having to wade your way all the way through. Then there's a third way, or fourth perhaps, of looking through here and just browsing the library. And for instance here, just open right up. But it basically has every single person that's entered in here, about 20 people, and they're divided up usually into about 5 parts. Click on that, it opens it up even further, breaks it down a bit more, and gives a brief description of what what that little segment is about, and it's usually about 30 seconds long to a minute. And you can just look for very specific things that way. Like Julie, she mentioned she had problems finding specific things, and I found that this way is the easiest if you know exactly what it is you're looking for. Because when she first started using the program, she mentioned Haki Madabuti's mother being murdered, and she couldn't find it. I managed to find it using this means in about a minute, just because I knew exactly how to branch it down and go right to that segment. So it's
going to require a little bit of training.
Yeah, it'll definitely require a little bit of training. Now there is a problem with like searching. For instance, like if you search for the keyword Brown, it will come up with anytime anybody mentions Brown or the last name Brown. It can't differentiate between that. Same as if you look for New York. Every time the word new is used, it's going to find that along.
Case sensitive?
Not yet.
You can't put quotes around it.
The quotes don't work actually.
That's interesting. And the Boolean doesn't work.
You have an and or an either or search, so you can look for the specific phrase. But then if, like, say, for instance, New York, someone said New York, but they said new and they stammered or something like that, and then York, any break there will cause it not to find it. And these are problems that will have to be worked out. But eventually, what we don't have on here yet, but we will, is a means of, like, if you put in 4 words, it will give you can get a plot look. It will show you the most relevant, where if you need something that has all 4 of those words as opposed to just has 1 of those words or 2, you can find the specific segments that have all 4 of those words in them, and you can draw a better frame of reference for where you need to be looking at within those interviews. So.
What if Juan Williams has been interviewed?
Who?
Juan Williams.
Juan Williams?
Juan Williams.
But
NPR.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
It doesn't sound familiar.
NPR,
It's
isn't
the
he?
Sunday morning.
Juan
news.
Williams.
NPR.
Black, America's Black Forum.
Talk of the Nation.
Yes. Yeah.
Doesn't sound. I guess not.
We don't have to know.
There's a list of all the people that have done HistoryMakers before. In fact, it's in the program book.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's not going to be at all available on the web, even to like a private site, subscription based, perhaps. That
That's not really something we've discussed, but I don't think it would be because it's going to have every single bit of the interviews available, and just the sheer bandwidth alone would be a nightmare for us to try to handle.
So they'll have to come in to look at it.
It'll be available to scholars and libraries.
Libraries and universities, so that students can view it on a kind of in a kind of secured,
Yeah.
secluded setting.
Will they have to pay for that usage? Will they have to pay for that usage, or you
Well,
have to
no.
figure that out? Okay.
Okay.
That's an extra money maker.
But a student will, right?
Yeah, student.
But what about the university itself?
No.
I think the library will, right? Institution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Any further questions?
Excellent system.
Somebody must pay.
Yeah.
Somebody must pay.
That's right, that's why I was asking. Exactly.
And that's
Information
probably the
isn't
best way
free.
to make the
History
money.
is not
'cause you
free.
can charge
It's
for
not
Information
the
is not free.
History's not free.
All right, and this will be here all week long, so just feel free to come in and play around with it a bit, search for things, try different means. I'll be more than happy to help you out.
How many interviews are?
There's about 20 on here, so it's, I don't know, not all of them are as long as others. I'm not sure exactly how many total hours are in here. Looks like Herb Kent has about 3 hours, 2.5 hours in here, and that's just kind of average, I guess.
So needless to say, this is all going to be compressed. It's not going to be available to download for actual broadcast editing. It's going to be just for archival research, study.
Yeah. And as we...
You can cram more information in.
Yeah, and basically we just need to really define ourselves, like how we want to be able to search it, because that's our biggest problem right now, is just, always get the right things that you're looking for. So, all right, there we have it.
Thank you.
Worth waiting for.
Now you're going to be downloaded into the archive for posterity.
Not just coming from me, but I will spit back a report to you that will tell you, what's going on with your account.
So the receipts are submitted via mail, regular U.S. mail, or do you want them scanned and submitted via email?
Email is fine.
It is to scan them and then just submit them via email. Okay. So you don't actually have to have the originals then. Okay,
Unless I
great.
tend to think that you could do all that good stuff at home. No.
Right. No. Okay. I just know that some places require the actual original for their bookkeeping.
If anything was in that arena that I really questioned, what it was about, I'd ask you to send me the original.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I don't think that would probably be necessary. Anybody else?
Let me just say that this is an area that we're still working out. Everyone that, there've been a lot of questions they ask about, what about this, what about that? And I would find that, a lot of those were very good questions. We can't, you're not going to get rich at $30 a day. You can't even eat a lot of meals at $30 a day.
No.
But that's what we provide here. So, anyway, so the only thing is that it's really important that we work within the budget. That's all I can tell you. There will be circumstances that arise. It's better to ask ahead of time than assume. There are situations where, you do have to make a decision. Hopefully it's the right one, but, as long as it's not, we want you to be protective of our precious resources. Let's put it that way. One of the things, one of our most expensive expenses is tape stock. Because not only do we have to, we shoot on Betacam SP, which is, more expensive, and then we're creating dubs, a Betamaster, Submaster, and on VHS. So, I've often been wanting, but we have not been successful about getting a donation from Sony. It would make a big difference, or Maxell, or, one of the tape companies. But all my attempts have gone, unanswered in that. And so that's why it's just our expenses, I may seem to be picky about things, but our expenses are just that. It's sort of hard to manage. And my fear, even with rolling out a region, is how to keep those, costs within control. You'll see on the sheet, that has all of your names on there, I had sort of some rules I had laid out, and I can't remember here. That, it says conditions for being hired. It says timing. You know, you could be perfect, but it just may not work. You know, it also, you could make the grade, but we need to raise the $250,000 in that region to really support the region. Donations are really critical because I see donations as cutting down costs. We would never have been able to get to the interviews that we have been at had it not been for the Hilton Hotels, Thrifty Rental Car, and American Airlines. But even like this year, we have a lot of demands on us with American Airlines, and they've cut back what their commitment was. The Hilton Hotels, the thing that made it really complicated this year, the year before when we were doing the Knight Foundation, we were staying at places, 4 or 5 times. And then they came back this past year and said you can only be at a place for 3 nights. So that added a whole complicated aspect of things. So that meant I stayed in the Hilton. Mary and Scott were in, Motel 6.
Funny how that works out.
Every 3 weeks.
Funny how that happens.
I understand.
But no, because we couldn't find any place, to really sort of put us up. And then Amy also has been very helpful in putting me up.
So you need a couple of those big Prevost, motorhomes.
Right. That's
The
right.
HistoryMakers on the road like C-SPAN.
Exactly.
Charles Perrault.
So, but they all have, everything has to really be donated. And so, and that really, I think, very, very highly of, and we have it, whether it's, I had gone to, our relationship with Sodexo Catering that we're trying to form really had started because I wanted them to donate food for the cruise. So there's not much that, office space we would like really within the region. And I know, and at Berkeley, we're talking to Charles about being housed within there. I would prefer that we have a location, a house and affiliation of some sort, if possible, but we don't have money to pay for rent and things like that. Flexibility is going to be key. I'm going to be spending the next few days. I want to be able to observe and get to know you. It's hard. I tend to be very busy. This is going to be my chance to do that. So, if I can see. I'm going to be looking for, though, flexibility and how much someone gets it, how quickly and how comfortable I feel about them and they're representing us. And then the ability to record the number of interviews required per year. There will be target goals if we are successful with some of our fundraising that I will look at and really try to establish within that region. This is a get to year, meaning that we're trying to get to. But out of a region, I want each region to produce 200 interviews a year. That's a team. And I know that it's possible. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a lot of work. It can be exhilarating, but it's sort of that whole process of really the battle plan that I talk about, sort of getting to something. We typically schedule 2 interviews a day. Those make for long days. They can be 8 to 10 to sometimes 12-hour days. And then sometimes they're 1 a day. But we don't find that efficient to schedule 1 a day. The reason that I have moved to not people doing this on freelance is I found that I was apologizing half the time. I mean, because the interview gets canceled, I would feel, badly. I don't want to pay for interviews, canceled. We have a good relationship with Matthew, but he's worked with us. He knows the system, he can work with it, so that's been okay. And then we have a changing world. What I say today may change tomorrow. It's not that I'm, fickle. It's just that the world may have changed, overnight in 24 hours. And so we have a lot of demands on our time, but the focus is really, can we set up that region? Can it work right? and how do we sort of move forward with it. And so this is our year to sort of really get to. With that, are there any questions? Because I think I had on the list to do things like our post-production and production and post-production process, but we're going to be covering that over the next few days, so I'm not going to spend really time, talking about that. Has everyone had a chance to tour the offices? By now, yeah, okay, we got it, that's right. Okay.
I just have one other thing.
Yeah.
There are 5 people that I need to get their airfare receipts for. These, fast.
Okay. I want to say we have reading materials. There are three things that are important that you read tomorrow. From the bottom, Tonight. Yes, you got homework. Reading assignments. The view from the bottom rail, conducting an oral history interview, and oral history of our time, if you could read those. And an oral history of our time, I think you had gotten a bad copy and the right copy.
Yeah, I gave him
So you can
I handed out the.
You can give us the there.
Is this the third one?
It should be 2 pages,
No.
not 1 page.
No. And then there also,
It should be 2 sides.
there's also over here, some oral history articles that you can take if you haven't gotten them. And then the oral history evaluation guidelines from the Oral History Association.
I need that one then.
No, you have that one.
Oh. So which one?
Conducting an oral history interview?
Yes.
Another one.
Yes. Conducting an oral history
That's what I don't
interview,
have.
an oral history of our time, and viewed from the bottom. It should be up there. So it's important that you come tomorrow morning. I want everyone to, did everyone get the request? You can, to bring a towel. A towel. Okay, you can bring it from your room if you want. Take it back. We're going to start out tomorrow, with some relaxation exercises in the morning, and which we'll do for about a half an hour. So relaxation, visualization exercises, and then what we're going to do. I have. Can I have everyone's attention? Okay, Michael Frisch, I'm going to have him, who's on our National Advisory Board, presenting along with Aaron McCarthy, who teaches the oral history class. For those of you who are oral historians, and just period, the intent is for this to be interactive. I'm going to, say that I want people who are interviewers to be, if I have some difference between interviewers and videographers, I want the interviewers to sort of take a leading role, sort of, in questions and things like that, so you will understand the process, and I can sort of see how you think and, do. Now, so that's what we're going to do in the morning, and then lunch. We'll just have lunch here. We are not departing for U of I. We had set up to have a separate room for people to do research. Crystal came to me because it's cold out there. We figured we can just set you up with computers here. But I want to see tomorrow how you approach researching. And then you'll come back and make presentations about your research the next day. While they are doing that, the videographers, we're going to want to test your skill set in setting up, and so Scott will be overseeing that process with Matthew. And it's important, if you haven't read them already, our interviewer and videographer guidelines, because those are going to take center stage for the next days after that. And on Thursday, that's when we sort of start the process, and we'll go over the guidelines in detail. For lunch, Charles Brannon, who's a historian, will be coming in to talk, and then he's going to be our guinea pig interviewee. And I will be taking the interviewers and we'll do his interview, but each person getting maybe a half an hour, I don't know, maybe, or 20 minutes, but we'll each, so people, by the end, everyone will have gotten a chance to take on, so you're gonna have to listen well with that. And so that's basically the next 2 days. And then we'll see from there. I want this to be as interactive as possible. I don't want people to hold back. I want it to work for you. We're really trying to develop a training protocol out of this. There are things that I consider the interview process an organic process. And someone has to be a really good listener. We'll do some role playing and things like that, but it's important for you to try to read as much and try to soak up as much as possible. We don't have an opportunity like this, but I'm trying to figure out how we do this ongoing, because how I've been doing it in the past is taking someone on the road with me. Larry was brought on that way. It's doesn't work. I'm like whispering in his ear and writing notes, and it takes a lot of concentration to do that when I'm breathing down your back. But this part is very important. It goes to the integrity of our process. Oral history project of this magnitude, if you have interviews